Greetings, kiddos. Not to sound like a broken fucking record, but we out here feeling bad lately. I've fallen into this rut that is all too familiar to me. It can be characterized as an existential itch. It's almost like I'm allergic to my own fucking life. And I've lost contact with my inner dialogue. It's a problem. So I don't often talk about my friends, like the personal connections that I have to people on here. You don't really often see my friends or me talking about them. Like you've seen Key, she's the KY and KY Jelly. I'm the Jelly, of course. But outside of that, I don't really have a whole lot of videos with my friends. And I do talk about like having friends because I mean I do have friends. I very easily make friends. I'm good at making friends, but I have one friend who I have known since I was a little kid, and he is, I don't know, he's an amazing person. He's an amazing fucking person. Like if you think I'm cool and well adjusted and interesting and fucking smart, he's a genius. He's so fucking smart. It's like I don't know. I just have a hard time um, describing my relationship with him in the context of us growing up. Like just being friends, like the surface level shit, that's easy to do. That's easy to talk about. Like we have similar interests. We're both queer as fuck. We're very introverted. And so it's really easy to talk about those surface level things, but like the dynamic of us as kids was very interesting. I think I remember one or two times that we've ever been like in a fight, that we've ever like disagreed with each other and it kind of like escalated to that level. Usually we resolve shit before it even becomes an issue. But I remember two things, two times, and there's probably been more, but two times specifically I can remember that we've ever fought in the what 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 20, 21, 22, 23. Is that 17? 27? Have I known this nigga for 27 years? Are you fucking kidding me? But yeah, we met when we were really young, and a lot of my core memories are like around him because we did everything together. We hung out like all the motherfucking time. But I haven't seen him in 7 years until like last week. I met up with him. We had lunch, and before that, I hadn't seen him for 6 years. So we had like a 6 year break and then a 7 year break, which is wild. And you think after all that time it would be like weird and awkward, and it was a little bit awkward because we're both introverts, and so when someone stops talking, runs out of things to say, like we kind of just both look off into the distance because we haven't had like a conversation with each other in a while, and the flow isn't quite there entirely. But we jumped right back into where we were, like friendship wise, and like the way that we spoke to each other. It wasn't like a whole lot of, yeah, getting to know you kind of shit. We like jumped into like the real meat of like just talking about our lives to each other. But yeah, this was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Fuck, I don't remember. I don't fucking remember. Time has become so amorphous to me. It has absolutely no shape. After I stopped taking my meds, I can't time. Can't do it. Not here. But after hanging out with him, I did a lot of thinking about our relationship growing up, and it's very interesting. It's interesting because he's like a few months younger than me, like 8 months younger than me, and so he started like a year back. They held him back a year because his birthday is in September, and so they decided, that's when the school year starts. You might be behind, so we'll put you a grade back. Which is bullshit because he was ready. He's a genius, as I told you. Growing up, I remember my parents just really, they love him. They love him. Like they love him. I don't know, it's wild because when we last saw each other before this latest time, it was back in 2014. He came to my parents' house, and my parents, this is the first time they've seen him since his transition, and so there was a little bit of awkwardness to begin with, but they were pretty fucking cool. They were pretty chill about it, and I was kind of a little bit jealous as fuck because my parents kind of have this NIMBY policy with how they provide support, and love feels conditional when it comes to me and my brother. It feels like we are not afforded the same grace that other people and other people's children were provided growing up. My parents pressured us a whole lot, and in that there is a dynamic that kind of formed where it's very common to have the golden child and the scapegoat in a family, and the golden child is typically, the kid that is the apple of their parents' eye. They could do no wrong. They're perfect in every way, and even when they fuck up, it's like they did that shit on purpose because they could never make a mistake because they're perfect, of course. And so that was me. I was the golden child, and it very much felt that way. And I did my best, like, after realizing that my brother was the scapegoat, I tried to kind of insulate him from the negative energy that they kind of were just throwing at him day and night. But at that time, I was a kid, and so it's not like I have all this power at my disposal. But I very much resented being the golden child, and I would suspect that he resents being the scapegoat as well. He's 2 years younger than me and was diagnosed autistic, uh, and it's kind of fucked up just to think about it because as we're learning things, my parents are expecting him to be on the same level as me when he's 2 years younger than me. So like when I started having to like wash dishes and iron and wash clothes and stuff, like that stuff came to me really quickly because I was like fucking 6, and he's like 4 years old having to learn this stuff. It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. And yet, but yeah, the relationship that I had with my parents, um, very much was centered around perfection, perfectionism, being perfect, and I knew I could do no wrong, but still felt like I was fucking up. And I think from a very young age, I realized that like being put on this pedestal, like they would put me on this pedestal, like, and it just didn't feel right. There was something wrong with it. It wasn't comfortable, and all these things that I would do, like getting good grades, being talented at art and acting and singing and music and fucking basketball, like I had to be the best at everything, and I would bring that back to my parents, showing them that like I deserve to be treated well. This is what gets me love. This is what this is what I have to do in order to receive love. Their love felt conditional, and I didn't realize that until much farther in my life, and I'm kind of dealing with the demons that have spawned from that. And one of them is definitely imposter syndrome because I feel like I didn't deserve to be put on the pedestal. And once the pedestal was gone, like once I got into the real world, I didn't know what to fucking do because accolades felt like nothing. They still feel like nothing. They feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So now the world has been set right, like almost like having to place things as an OCD person. Now the world is in the right place, but I there's no happiness that brings me. It just puts everything back into equilibrium. And so having this relationship with perfectionism and with my parents, it's interesting because when they would interact with my friend, you could tell that there were things that he did that they very much valued that I was a little bereft of. Um, because growing up, I had a lot of mental illness. I was plagued by mental illness. And my friend, like, not to say that he wasn't, but my parents only saw him when he was good. My parents only interacted with him when he was, mostly fine. And so they're seeing like the all of me. They're seeing the worst and the best parts of me, but they're really only seeing the good parts of my friend. And so they would put this almost like a dog whistle kind of premium on his state of mind, his what is the word? Like he just seemed very well adjusted, and my parents kind of made it a thing. They made it a fucking thing. It was very subtle, but I definitely felt it. So maybe there was me, kind of projecting, but also I feel like there were some of the vibes there that like you need to calm down and act right, and your friend does it. Why can't you? Which I don't blame him for at all. Like that's just the way my fucking parents are. So all these things that I'm doing to get my parents to kind of give me that conditional love, to make me feel like I'm doing something right. All those things, he was like 5 to 10 times better at it than I was. So like, he was very good at art. I remember going to a gallery where he had his art put up, and I fell. I think I tripped over a foot. The mayor was there, and I tripped over her foot and fell, and she laughed at me. It wasn't even like super embarrassing. It was mostly just really fucking funny because she laughed at me instead of helping me up. Like I was a kid. He's good at art. He was good at acting. I remember going to his plays. He was good at just learning. He was just really, really smart. Um, Good at sports, very athletic. And he was very genuine, not really into, super girly shit. He wasn't about like the pretense of like putting on makeup and like wanting to look good for other people. Not to say he didn't want to look good, but he knew there was a time and place for it, and you didn't have to do it fucking every day for the pretense of it. And I remember him as a kid like being just overflowing with talent and down to earthness. I remember that and being a little bit jealous. I remember being jealous up until like maybe third or fourth grade, where it kind of flipped and became, what is it, compersion, conspersion. And it's kind of this empathetic version of pride, where when you see someone that's like a loved one, you see them doing well or you see them get a gift and you feel like that's your win, and not like in a selfish way, but like I'm so proud of you. It's almost like when you're winning, I'm also winning because I love to see you thrive. Shit like that. And it's funny because being around him made me feel like I was a secondary character in my own story. Like he was the protagonist, and I didn't really even feel bad about it. It was just really comfortable. Not to feel like I have to be on my guard all the time. I don't have to like be perfect all the motherfucking time. Knowing him really taught me how to appreciate other people's W's. Like I think he's just a really important part of my life, and it was really nice to see him again. And I think in interacting with my parents, he would be kind of a buffer for being treated like a golden child, because around my parents, he was the golden child. And I didn't realize it wholly at the time, but he relieved a lot of stress for me to be that golden child, to pull some of that focus of my parents off of me for just a second. It was really nice to have somebody there. Um, and I hope that none of that rubbed off on him. I hope that he doesn't have issues with feeling not good enough, because my parents very much just made me feel not good enough. It was really cool to have him around in my life to be a source of inspiration as well as a buffer from the ever pervasive perfectionism that my childhood and adolescence was marked by. He did a lot for me, and I think I'm gonna tell him, because I think it's important for him to know that he is loved and overall appreciated, and that he did a valuable service to me during a time where things felt turbulent and scary. That golden child shit is no fucking joke. I still feel tethered. I still feel like I'm an extension to my parents, and it's been over a decade since I last like lived with my parents, was immersed in the culture of our house. I definitely think that the scapegoat, or the ignored one of the family, has it the worst. but they also have the insight, they have the unfortunate awareness that this system is flawed, that your parents are wrong in the way that they're treating you. And when you're the golden child, because you're treated really well, you kind of have those rose colored glasses, not realizing that this is a toxic relationship. But the scapegoat always knows. They are kind of the canary in the mine for toxicity within a family. But eventually, an unfortunate truth about growing up in a scapegoat golden child family is that the parents sometimes will turn on the golden child, and they'll realize that the system in which we are operating is deeply, deeply flawed. And I don't really need that. I didn't need to have my parents turn on me, but they kind of did. Um, which kind of, further cemented that, like, this is fucked up. But seeing how my brother was treated, like he's just a fuck up and he can't get anything right, seeing that, I was like, this is not fair. This is not fair. And it's so fucking distressing and horrible to be put in that situation where you know things are wrong, but you don't really have the, like, emotional intelligence to voice it. And even if you did, they wouldn't listen to you. It's just interesting to think about dynamics within families and how that trauma sticks with you. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what's y'all's experience with those types of dynamics. Do you feel like you were the golden child? Do you feel ignored? Do you feel like you're a scapegoat or the black sheep? There's a lot of words for it, but I think no matter how you look at it, it's just a toxic as fuck system to have, to be raised in, to be conditioned in. And so I invite all of you to just, spill your motherfucking guts, because I know everybody's gone through some shit. And, talking about it is like the first step to resolving it. So yeah, step one, I guess. I'll talk to y'all later.